August 6, 1945. Farm Hall, Godmanchester, Cambridgeshire, England. This was not what it appeared to be. It looked like a farm. It was actually a prison. Inside this house were 10 of Nazi Germany's top nuclear scientists. Werner Heisenberg, Otto Hahn, Karl Wirtz, Paul Hartig. These men had run Hitler's atomic bomb program. These men had spent years trying to build a weapon that could have changed the war. These men had no idea they were walking into a British intelligence operation. They had no idea every room was bugged. They had no idea every word they spoke was being recorded on hidden microphones. They had no idea that on August 6th, British intelligence would play them a radio broadcast that would change everything. They had no idea they were about to hear how America had accomplished what they failed to accomplish. They had no idea they were about to understand why they had lost the war. This is the story of Operation Epsilon. This is the story of Farm Hall. This is the story of what happened when Hitler's top nuclear scientists learned about Hiroshima. This is the story of secret recordings that revealed why Germany never stood a chance. This is the story of how industrial capacity, organizational structure, and scientific talent determined the outcome of the atomic weapons race. The story begins in the spring of 1945. The war in Europe was ending. Germany was collapsing. Allied forces were sweeping across the continent, capturing German territory. As they advanced, they captured something else. They captured German scientists. They captured the people who had been working on Germany's atomic bomb program. They captured the brains behind Hitler's nuclear effort. British intelligence had a plan. Capture the German nuclear scientists. Hold them, interrogate them. Learn how close they had come to building an atomic bomb. But British intelligence had a better plan. Rather than interrogate them directly, rather than allow them to prepare their answers, bug the house where they were being held. Record their private conversations. Capture their unguarded moments. Understand what they really thought rather than what they were prepared to say. 10 German scientists were brought to Farm Hall. This house in the English countryside became a secret intelligence operation. Every room was wired with hidden microphones. Every conversation was recorded on shellac discs. Every word was captured. Every unguarded moment was preserved. The Germans had no idea they were being monitored. The Germans had no idea their most private conversations were being recorded. The Germans had no idea British intelligence was listening to everything. Subscribe right now, because this story about how organizations handle failure and how individuals respond to disaster deserves to reach millions of people who need to understand human nature and competitive dynamics. For weeks, the scientists were held at Farm Hall. They discussed physics. They discussed the war. They discussed their program. They discussed their lives. They had no idea anyone was listening. Then came August 6th. The BBC broadcast the news. An American aircraft had dropped a bomb on Hiroshima. The bomb had destroyed the entire city. The bomb was described as atomic. The bomb was described as incredibly powerful. One bomb, one city. Destroyed. British intelligence officials played the broadcast for the German scientists. The reaction was immediate. The reaction was shock. The reaction was disbelief. One scientist said it had to be propaganda. One scientist said the Americans were lying. One scientist said it was impossible. America doesn't have the technology to build an atomic bomb. America doesn't have scientists capable of this. America couldn't have kept such a project secret. It must be a lie. Werner Heisenberg was Germany's greatest physicist. Heisenberg had run Germany's nuclear program. Heisenberg was the person most capable of understanding what had happened. When Heisenberg heard the news about Hiroshima, Heisenberg's immediate reaction was denial. Heisenberg said it couldn't be real. Heisenberg said the report must be exaggerated. Heisenberg said the Americans must be lying. But then Heisenberg started calculating. Heisenberg grabbed a piece of paper. Heisenberg began working through the physics. Heisenberg worked through the night calculating whether such a bomb was actually possible. By morning, Heisenberg had his answer. The answer shocked him. The answer was yes. America had actually built an atomic bomb. America had actually destroyed Hiroshima with a nuclear weapon. It was real. Heisenberg gathered the other scientists. Heisenberg explained his calculations. Heisenberg walked them through the physics. Heisenberg showed them how America had done what Germany had failed to do. The room fell silent. The implications sank in. Germany had lost the atomic weapons race like this video because understanding how organizations fail in competitive races deserves massive reach and should influence how every leader thinks about resource allocation. Otto Hahn was the person who had discovered nuclear fission. Hahn's discovery had made atomic weapons theoretically possible. When Hahn heard that America had used an atomic bomb to destroy Hiroshima, Hahn felt something crushing. "I discovered this," Hahn said. "I discovered the principle that makes this weapon possible. And now 100,000 people have been killed by this principle." Hahn walked to his room. Some of the other scientists worried about him. Hahn felt responsible for the deaths. Hahn felt guilt. Hahn felt the weight of having discovered something that had been used to kill so many people. The other scientists sat in silence. They understood the implications. They understood that America had built what Germany had failed to build. They understood that Germany had lost the war before it even reached this point. They understood that their years of work had come to nothing. They understood that they had been defeated. But the question that burned in every scientist's mind was simple. How? How had America accomplished what Germany could not accomplish? How had America built an atomic bomb? How had Germany fallen so far behind? What had Germany done wrong? The answers emerged from the recorded conversations. The microphones captured the discussions. The microphones captured the debates. The microphones captured the realization slowly dawning on these brilliant men. Germany had failed not because of scientific inadequacy. Germany had failed because of organizational failures. Germany had failed because of resource constraints. Germany had failed because of Hitler. Tell me in the comments if you understand that organizational structure determines competitive outcomes. Tell me if you recognize that resources matter more than genius. The first realization was about funding. One scientist pointed out that Germany had never committed serious resources to the atomic bomb program. "We received our first substantial funding in spring 1942, Heisenberg said. Spring 1942. The war had been going on for nearly 3 years already. Germany had started its nuclear research in 1939. For 3 years, the program had been starved of resources. For 3 years, the program had been treated as a secondary priority. By contrast, America's Manhattan Project had received unlimited funding. America had committed $2 billion to the project. America had committed the resources necessary to succeed. Germany had committed perhaps $50 to $100 million. Germany's budget was at most 1/20th of America's budget. Germany's commitment was utterly inadequate. The second realization was about industrial capacity. Germany had tried to enrich uranium through thermal diffusion. Thermal diffusion is a process where uranium is heated to create a temperature gradient, and the isotopes separate slightly. But thermal diffusion is extraordinarily inefficient. Thermal diffusion requires enormous facilities operating continuously. Germany had attempted thermal diffusion, but had never built facilities at a scale sufficient to produce weapons-grade uranium. America, by contrast, had built massive industrial facilities dedicated to uranium enrichment. America had built gaseous diffusion plants. These plants were enormous. These plants covered hundreds of acres. These plants employed thousands of workers. America had built industrial facilities at a scale that Germany could never have matched. Germany had tried to build a bomb in laboratories. America had built a bomb in industrial plants the size of small cities. Korshing, one of the scientists, said something that cut to the heart of the matter. "The Americans can cooperate," he said. "They can coordinate massive projects involving hundreds of thousands of workers." Impossible in Germany. The comment was not just about physics. The comment was about organizational capability. Germany could not organize at the scale required for success. The third realization was about scientific talent. Germany had driven away many of its best scientists. The scientists at Farm Hall knew this. They knew that Albert Einstein had fled Germany. They knew that Niels Bohr had escaped. They knew that many other brilliant physicists had left Germany or had been killed by the Nazi regime. Those scientists had gone to America. Those scientists had gone to the Manhattan Project. Those scientists had contributed to building the atomic bomb that had just destroyed Hiroshima. Germany had lost its own best talent. Germany had driven away the people who could have made the difference. Germany had chosen racist ideology over scientific capability. Germany had chosen to exclude Jewish scientists. Germany had chosen to exclude brilliant minds. Germany had chosen to lose. One scientist said something bitter. We gave them our greatest weapon, our own scientists, our own brilliant minds. We drove them away. We let them go to America. We let them win the war for America. The realization was crushing. Germany's own racism had caused Germany's defeat in the atomic weapons. Subscribe because understanding how organizational culture determines competitive success is essential for every organization seeking to win competitive races. But the largest realization was about Hitler himself. Hitler had not understood atomic physics. Hitler had not understood the potential of atomic weapons. Hitler had been impatient. Hitler had wanted quick results. Hitler had wanted weapons he could understand immediately. Rockets, tanks, jets, things that looked impressive. Things that could be deployed quickly. Atomic weapons were different. Atomic weapons required long-term research. Atomic weapons required patience. Atomic weapons required fundamental science. Hitler did not have patience for fundamental science. Hitler did not understand that some things take time. Hitler did not understand that atomic weapons could not be rushed. When Heisenberg had met with military leadership in 1942, Heisenberg had explained the situation. The scientists could eventually build an atomic bomb, Heisenberg had said, but it would take at least 3 to 5 years. The military leadership had responded with impatience. Too long, they had said. We need weapons now. Cannot wait 3 to 5 years. Hitler had made the decision to cut the atomic bomb program. Hitler had decided to prioritize other weapons. Hitler had decided that atomic research was not worth the investment. Hitler had decided that other projects were more important. Hitler's decision had been catastrophic. Hitler's impatience had cost Germany the atomic weapons race like this video because understanding how leadership impatience causes competitive failure is essential for every organization seeking long-term success through. Scientists at Farm Hall understood something else too. They understood that even if Germany had built an atomic bomb, Germany would not have been able to use it. By the time Germany developed an atomic bomb, Germany would already have been defeated. Germany's territory would have been occupied. Germany's military would have been destroyed. Germany would have already lost the war. America had won the race through sheer organizational and industrial superiority. America had won because America could coordinate massive projects. America had won because America had unlimited resources. America had won because America had the scientific talent. America had won because America could do at scale what Germany could only do in laboratories. One scientist said the quiet part out loud. We were simply behind, he said. Not in physics, not in science, but in organization, in resources, in industrial capacity, in ability to coordinate massive projects. America was ahead in all of those things. Germany was hopelessly behind in all of those things. The conversation went late into the night. The microphones captured every word. The recordings preserved the moment when Germany's top nuclear scientists realized they had lost, realized they had been defeated, realized that Germany never could have won the atomic weapons race. Tell me in the comments if you understand the power of scale and resources in determining competitive outcomes. Tell me if you recognize that genius alone is insufficient to overcome resource disadvantages. The final realization was the most sobering. The scientists understood that this weapon changed everything. This bomb changed what war meant. This bomb changed what power meant. This bomb changed what the future would be. Whoever possessed atomic weapons possessed power that previous empires could not have dreamed of. Whoever possessed atomic weapons could threaten anyone. Whoever possessed atomic weapons could control the world. America possessed atomic weapons. Germany did not. America now had power that exceeded every empire in history. Germany had been defeated, not just militarily, but strategically. Germany had been defeated not just in the war, but in terms of global power for decades to come. Germany would never recover from this defeat. Germany would never match American power. The microphones continued to record. British intelligence listened to every word. The transcripts were carefully preserved. The recordings became classified material. The world did not know what Germany's top scientists had said at Farm Hall. The world did not know what realizations they had reached. The world did not know what they had understood about why Germany had lost. But British intelligence knew. British intelligence understood. British intelligence had captured the moment when Germany's greatest minds came to terms with defeat. British intelligence had captured the conversations that revealed why Germany never stood a chance. Subscribe, because understanding how competitive outcomes are determined by resources and organization is essential for every leader. Years later, the farm hall transcripts were declassified. The world learned what the German scientists had said. The world learned about their shock upon hearing about Hiroshima. The world learned about their calculations. The world learned about their realizations. The world learned about their understanding of why Germany had lost. But perhaps more importantly, the world learned something about how organizations succeed or fail. The world learned that genius is not sufficient. The world learned that scientific capability is not sufficient. The world learned that resources matter. The world learned that organization matters. The world learned that the ability to coordinate at scale matters. The world learned that leadership vision matters. Germany had brilliant scientists. Germany had excellent physicists. Germany had capable researchers. But Germany had failed in the atomic weapons race because Germany could not match America's resources. Germany could not match America's organization. Germany could not match America's industrial capacity. Germany could not match America's coordination at scale. This is the lesson of Farm Hall. This is the lesson that every organization should learn. This is the lesson that determined the outcome of the atomic weapons race. This is the lesson that determines competitive outcomes in every industry like this video, because understanding how resources and organization determine competitive success deserves massive reach. Now, let me explain what this story reveals about why competitive races are often decided before they even begin, because understanding these principles helps explain competitive dynamics in every field. The atomic weapons race was not decided when America dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. The atomic weapons race was decided years earlier. The atomic weapons race was decided when America committed resources at massive scale. The atomic weapons race was decided when America organized the Manhattan Project. The atomic weapons race was decided when America brought together the best scientists. The atomic weapons race was decided when America built industrial facilities at scale. Germany lost the atomic weapons race not in 1945. Germany lost the atomic weapons race in 1942. Germany lost the atomic weapons race when Germany cut funding to the nuclear program. Germany lost the atomic weapons race when Germany chose to prioritize other weapons. Germany lost the atomic weapons race when Hitler decided atomic research was not important enough. The competitive outcome was predetermined. By the time Hiroshima was bombed, the outcome had already been decided. Germany had already lost. Germany had already given up. Germany had already chosen a different path. This principle applies to every competitive environment. Competitive outcomes are often decided before the actual competition reaches its conclusion. Competitive outcomes are determined by resource allocation. Competitive outcomes are determined by organizational structure. Competitive outcomes are determined by leadership decisions made years earlier. Companies that commit resources early to emerging technologies often win competitive races. Companies that organize effectively often beat more capable competitors. Companies that maintain focus on long-term goals often beat competitors that get distracted by short-term pressures. Companies that build the right organizational structure often win even if they lack the smartest individuals. The Farm Hall recordings prove this principle. Germany lost not because German scientists were less intelligent than American scientists. Germany lost because Germany had not committed resources at the necessary scale. Germany lost because Germany had not organized effectively. Germany lost because Germany had chosen impatience over vision. Subscribe and share this story, because every leader needs to understand that competitive outcomes are determined by resource allocation and organizational structure, not just by individual capability. This is the story of Operation Epsilon. This is the story of Farm Hall. This is the story of how history was recorded on shellac discs. This is the story of what Hitler's top scientists said when they learned about Hiroshima. This is the story of how competitive outcomes are determined. The microphones captured the moment. The recordings preserved the realization. The transcripts revealed the truth. Germany had lost the atomic weapons race. Germany had lost not because of scientific inadequacy, but because of organizational failure. Germany had lost not because of intelligence deficiency, but because of resource insufficiency. Germany had lost because Hitler had chosen impatience over vision. This lesson echoes through history. This lesson remains relevant today. This lesson applies to every organization. This lesson applies to every competitive environment. This lesson determines success and failure in markets around the world, like this video, because understanding competitive dynamics determines organizational success. Now let me explain how this farm hall story reveals something fundamental about organizational culture and decision-making, because understanding these principles helps you build better organizations. Nazi Germany had a specific organizational culture. The culture was characterized by centralized decision-making. The culture was characterized by short-term thinking. The culture was characterized by ideology overriding practical considerations. The culture was characterized by impatience with long-term research. This organizational culture was reflected in decisions about the atomic bomb program. The decision to cut funding in the early years reflected short-term thinking. The decision to prioritize weapons that could be deployed quickly reflected impatience. The decision to exclude Jewish scientists reflected ideology overriding practical considerations. The decision to treat atomic research as secondary reflected a culture that did not understand long-term competitive advantage. America, by contrast, had a different organizational culture. America's culture was characterized by long-term vision. America's culture was characterized by willingness to invest in research, even when results were uncertain. America's culture was characterized by pragmatism. America's culture was characterized by understanding that some competitive advantages are built over years. The Manhattan Project reflected this culture. The Manhattan Project committed massive resources without guaranteed success. The Manhattan Project brought together scientists from multiple institutions. The Manhattan Project coordinated work across multiple sites. The Manhattan Project functioned as a unified organization despite being spread across the country. The Manhattan Project reflected an organizational culture that could handle complexity, scale, and uncertainty. The contrast is stark. Germany had an organizational culture that could not handle the complexity of the atomic bomb program. Germany had an organizational culture that demanded quick results. Germany had an organizational culture that treated pure science as less important than applied weapons. Germany had an organizational culture that made poor strategic decisions. The scientists at Farm Hall understood this. The scientists understood that they had lost not just a technical competition, but a competition about organizational culture. The scientists understood that America's organizational culture was superior to Germany's organizational culture. The scientists understood that organizational culture determines competitive outcomes. This is an important lesson for modern organizations. Organizations with cultures that support long-term investment, that support pure research, that support coordination across teams, that support pragmatism over ideology. These organizations win competitive races. Organizations with cultures that demand short-term results, that prioritize quick payoffs, that allow ideology to override practical considerations, that make impatient decisions. These organizations lose competitive races. The Farm Hall recordings captured this realization. The recordings captured the moment when Germany's top scientists understood that their organizational culture had caused their defeat. The recordings captured the moment when they understood that America's organizational culture had enabled America's victory. Tell me in the comments if your organization has a culture that supports long-term investment or a culture that demands short-term results. Tell me if you recognize the difference this makes, like this video, because understanding how organizational culture determines competitive success is essential for every leader. Now let me give you 5 specific principles that the Farm Hall story teaches about competitive advantage, because understanding these principles helps you build more competitive organizations. First principle, commit resources at scale. Germany lost the atomic weapons race because Germany did not commit resources at scale. Germany lost because Germany treated atomic research as a secondary priority. Germany lost because Germany allocated inadequate funding. America won because America committed massive resources. America won because America made atomic weapons development the highest priority. America won because America built the necessary infrastructure. If you want to win competitive races, you must commit resources at scale. You must make your strategic priority the highest priority. You must allocate resources adequate to succeed. Half measures guarantee failure. Second principle, organize for scale. Germany tried to build an atomic bomb in laboratories. America built atomic bombs in industrial plants. Germany had competing programs with inadequate coordination. America unified its efforts in the Manhattan Project. Germany could not coordinate at scale. America could. If you want to win competitive races, you must organize for scale. You must coordinate work across teams. You must align efforts toward unified goals. You must build organizational structures that can handle complexity and scale. Third principle, attract and retain top talent. Germany drove away brilliant scientists through racism and ideology. America attracted brilliant scientists through opportunity and resources. Germany lost because Germany lost Einstein, Bohr, and many others. America won because America had the world's top scientists. If you want to win competitive races, you must attract top talent. You must create opportunities for brilliant people. You must not exclude people based on irrelevant characteristics. You must reward excellence. Fourth principle, maintain long-term vision. Germany made short-term decisions. Hitler wanted quick results. Hitler cut funding to atomic research because results were not immediate. Hitler prioritized weapons that could be deployed quickly. Germany's short-term vision caused Germany's defeat. America maintained long-term vision. America understood that atomic weapons would take years to develop. America committed resources despite uncertainty. America maintained vision despite lack of immediate results. If you want to win competitive races, you must maintain long-term vision. You must invest in projects that take years to complete. You must not abandon promising initiatives because they do not produce immediate results. Fifth principle, avoid ideology in decision-making. Germany allowed Nazi ideology to influence decisions about science and scientists. Germany allowed racism to cause the exclusion of brilliant scientists. Germany allowed ideology to influence decisions about the atomic bomb program. Germany's ideological decision-making caused strategic defeat. America made pragmatic decisions. America hired the best scientists regardless of background. America organized based on what worked, rather than on ideological principles. America made practical decisions about resource allocation. If you want to win competitive races, you must avoid ideology in decision-making. You must make pragmatic decisions based on what works. You must not let irrelevant considerations influence strategic decisions. These 5 principles come directly from the Farm-Hall story. These principles determine the outcome of the atomic weapons race. These principles determine competitive outcomes in every industry. These principles should guide how every organization operates. Subscribe, because these 5 principles will help you build more competitive organizations. Now let me tell you what the Farm-Hall story means for organizations competing today, because the principles revealed by the atomic weapons race remain relevant in modern competitive environments. Many organizations today are making the same mistakes that Germany made. Many organizations are making short-term decisions instead of long-term decisions. Many organizations are cutting funding to research projects because results are not immediate. Many organizations are prioritizing short-term profits over long-term competitive advantage. Many organizations are failing to invest in the scale necessary to compete effectively. Many organizations are also making the same mistake about talent. Many organizations are excluding talented people based on irrelevant characteristics. Many organizations are not attracting the best talent. Many organizations are losing talented people to competitors. Many organizations are allowing ideology to influence talent decisions. Many organizations are failing to build teams that attract the best people. Many organizations are also making organizational structure mistakes. Many organizations have competing programs without adequate coordination. Many organizations cannot organize at scale. Many organizations cannot coordinate complex projects across multiple teams. Many organizations have organizational cultures that prevent effective scaling. These organizations are replicating Germany's mistakes. These organizations are setting themselves up to lose competitive races. These organizations are making strategic decisions that guarantee competitive failure. The question for your organization is simple. Will you learn from the farm hall story? Will you commit resources at scale? Will you organize for scale? Will you attract and retain top talent? Will you maintain long-term vision? Will you avoid ideology in decision-making? Your answers to these questions determine whether your organization will win or lose in competitive races. Your answers determine your organization's future. Your answers determine whether your organization will thrive or fail. Tell me in the comments whether your organization would win or lose in a competitive race like the atomic weapons race. Tell me whether your organization commits resources at scale. Tell me whether your organization can organize for scale. Tell me whether your organization attracts top talent. Tell me whether your organization maintains long-term vision. Share your assessment because this self-awareness is the first step toward making better strategic decisions. Like this video because every organization needs to understand the principles that determine competitive success. This is the complete story of Operation Epsilon and Farm Hall. This is the story of what Hitler's top nuclear scientists said when they learned about Hiroshima. This is the story of how competitive outcomes are determined by resources, organization, talent, vision, and pragmatism. This is the story that every organization should learn. The farm hall recordings captured a moment in history. The recordings captured the realization of brilliant minds confronting strategic defeat. The recordings captured the understanding that Germany had lost not because of scientific inadequacy, but because of strategic failure. The recordings captured the principles that determine competitive success. These principles remain relevant today. These principles apply to every organization. These principles apply to every competitive environment. These principles determine success and failure in markets around the world. These principles determine whether organizations win or lose in competitive races. The choice is yours. The time is now. Will you learn from the farm hall story? Will you build an organization that wins competitive races? Will you commit resources at scale? Will you organize for scale? Will you attract top talent? Will you maintain long-term vision? Will you avoid ideology in decision-making? Make these commitments right now. Tell yourself that your organization will win competitive races. Tell yourself that your organization will commit resources at scale. Tell yourself that your organization will organize for scale. Tell yourself that your organization will attract and retain top talent. Tell yourself that your organization will maintain long-term vision. Tell yourself that your organization will make pragmatic decisions. Then go implement these commitments. Then go build an organization that wins competitive races. Then go prove that you understand the principles that determine competitive success. The farm hall story is complete. The lesson is clear. The principles are proven. The time to act is now. Go build your competitive organization. Go win your competitive races. Go prove that you understand how competitive outcomes are determined. Thank you for learning this story. Thank you for understanding why the farm hall recordings matter. Thank you for recognizing that competitive success is determined by how organizations are built and run. Now go share this story. Go tell others. Go make sure that every leader understands the principles that determine competitive success. This is the story of Operation Epsilon. This is the story of Farm Hall. This is the story that proves competitive outcomes are determined by resources, organization, talent, vision, and pragmatism. The microphones recorded the moment. The transcripts preserved the truth. History captured the lesson. Now go apply it to your organization. Let me tell you more about the specific scientists at Farm Hall and what their reactions reveal. Because understanding individual reactions helps explain the broader lessons about competitive failure. Werner Heisenberg was Germany's greatest physicist. Heisenberg had won the Nobel Prize. Heisenberg was one of the most famous scientists in the world. Heisenberg had been entrusted with leading Germany's atomic bomb program. When Heisenberg heard about Hiroshima, Heisenberg's first reaction was skepticism. Heisenberg believed the report had to be exaggerated or false. Heisenberg could not believe America had accomplished what Germany had failed to accomplish. But Heisenberg was a scientist. Heisenberg knew that skepticism should be backed by evidence. Heisenberg knew that he should calculate whether the report was plausible. Heisenberg spent the night doing calculations. Heisenberg worked through the physics carefully. Heisenberg verified whether an atomic bomb dropping on a city could have produced the effects described in the radio broadcast. By morning, Heisenberg had his answer. The answer was yes. An atomic bomb could produce the effects described. America had really built an atomic bomb. The report was not exaggerated. America had actually accomplished what Germany had failed to accomplish. Heisenberg felt something close to despair. Heisenberg understood that Germany had lost. Heisenberg understood that Germany's program had failed. Heisenberg understood that America had succeeded where Germany had failed. Otto Hahn was the scientist who had discovered nuclear fission. Hahn's discovery in 1938 had made atomic weapons theoretically possible. Hahn had shared the discovery with the scientific community. Hahn had not understood that his discovery would eventually be used to build weapons that would kill hundreds of thousands of people. When Hahn learned about Hiroshima, Hahn felt guilt. Hahn felt responsibility. Hahn felt that he bore some responsibility for the deaths in Hiroshima. Hahn said that he had discovered fission, and now 100,000 people had been killed because of his discovery. The recordings captured Hahn's emotional reaction. Hahn was devastated. Hahn was tormented. Hahn felt the weight of having discovered something that had been weaponized against hundreds of thousands of people. Later in the war, Hahn would express relief that Germany had not built an atomic bomb. Hahn understood that if Germany had built an atomic bomb, Germany would have used it. Hitler would have used it. The Nazis would have used it against their enemies. The consequences would have been even more catastrophic. Karl Wirtz was another senior physicist. Wirtz had worked on Germany's nuclear program. Wirtz understood the technical challenges of building an atomic bomb. Wirtz understood that Germany had failed to overcome those challenges. Wirtz understood that America had succeeded in overcoming those challenges. Wirtz expressed something that other scientists felt but did not say as directly. Wirtz acknowledged that America had organized at a scale that Germany could never have matched. Wirtz acknowledged that America's industrial capacity had made the difference. Wirtz understood that organization and resources mattered more than individual genius. Paul Hartek was a chemist who had worked on uranium separation. Hartek had been frustrated by the lack of resources for his work. Hartek had requested more funding. Hartek had requested more facilities. Hartek had requested more workers. Hartek's requests had been denied. Hartek had been forced to work with inadequate resources. When Hartek learned about Hiroshima, Hartek understood what inadequate resources had meant. Hartek understood that if he had received the resources he requested, perhaps Germany's uranium enrichment program would have succeeded. Hartek understood that resource constraints had made the difference. The reactions of these scientists were captured in the recordings. The reactions revealed something profound about how brilliant people respond to competitive defeat. The reactions revealed that these scientists understood the real reasons for Germany's failure. The reactions revealed that they understood it was not about scientific capability. The reactions revealed that they understood it was about resources, organization, and leadership decisions. The British intelligence officers listened to the recordings. The officers understood what they were hearing. The officers understood that they had captured something valuable. The officers understood that they had captured the moment when Germany's top scientists came to terms with defeat. The officers understood that they had captured important information about why Germany's atomic program had failed. The transcripts were carefully preserved. The recordings were kept in archives. The information was classified. The British government kept the transcripts secret for decades. It was not until decades later that the farm-hall transcripts were declassified. It was not until decades later that the world learned what Germany's top scientists had said when they heard about Hiroshima. It was not until decades later that the public could understand what the farm-hall recordings revealed about competitive failure and organizational dysfunction. Subscribe because understanding what intelligent people learn from their failures is essential for every organization seeking to avoid similar mistakes. Tell me in the comments what you would have said if you had been at Farm Hall. Tell me whether you would have understood the real reasons for Germany's defeat. Tell me whether you would have recognized that resources and organization mattered more than individual genius. Like this video because understanding competitive failure requires understanding how intelligent people respond when they lose. Now, let me explain what the farmhole scientists said about Hitler's role in Germany's atomic program failure, because understanding Hitler's mistakes helps explain how leadership failure determines competitive outcomes. Hitler had not been interested in atomic physics. Hitler did not understand quantum mechanics. Hitler did not understand nuclear fission. Hitler did not understand the theoretical basis for atomic weapons. Hitler was impatient with theoretical research. Hitler wanted practical weapons. Hitler wanted results he could see and use immediately. When Heisenberg had met with military and political leadership in 1942 to discuss the atomic bomb program, Heisenberg had tried to explain the situation. Heisenberg had explained that building an atomic bomb was theoretically possible. Heisenberg had explained that it was technically feasible. But Heisenberg had explained that it would take at least 3 to 5 years. Heisenberg had explained that the project would require massive resources. Heisenberg had explained that there was no guarantee of success. Hitler's response had been immediate rejection. Hitler wanted weapons now. Hitler wanted results immediately. Hitler could not wait 3 to 5 years. Hitler did not believe resources should be dedicated to projects with uncertain outcomes. Hitler decided to cut funding to the atomic bomb program. Hitler decided to prioritize other weapons. Hitler decided that atomic research was not important enough to justify continued investment. This decision had been catastrophic. This decision had been made in 1942. By the time America dropped the bomb on Hiroshima in 1945, Germany had not built an atomic bomb. Germany had not even come close to building an atomic bomb. Germany had been defeated by Hitler's impatient decision made 3 years earlier. The scientists at Farm Hall understood this. The scientists understood that Hitler's impatience had cost Germany the atomic weapons race. The scientists understood that if Hitler had had patience, if Hitler had committed resources, if Hitler had allowed the program to continue, the outcome might have been different. But the scientists also understood that even if Germany had eventually built an atomic bomb, Germany would probably have been defeated before the bomb could be deployed. The Farm Hall transcripts reveal something else about Hitler's role. The transcripts reveal that Hitler's racism had cost Germany its best scientists. Hitler had driven out Albert Einstein. Hitler had driven out other Jewish scientists. Hitler had created an environment where brilliant scientists felt unwelcome. Hitler had created an environment where talented people fled Germany. Many of those scientists went to America. Many of those scientists joined the Manhattan Project. Many of those scientists contributed to building the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. Germany had driven away its own greatest talent. Germany had given America its greatest talent. Germany had essentially handed America victory in the atomic weapons race. One of the scientists at Farm Hall said something that captured this bitterly. "We expelled the Jews," one scientist said, "and they won the war for America." The comment captured the tragic irony. Germany's racism, one of the core principles of Nazi ideology, had caused Germany's strategic defeat. Hitler's hatred of Jews had driven away the scientists who could have made a difference. Hitler's ideology had undermined Hitler's military objectives. The scientists understood this. The scientists understood that ideology had undermined strategy. The scientists understood that hatred had damaged military capability. The scientists understood that by driving away Jewish scientists, Hitler had weakened Germany's position in the atomic weapons race. The Farm Hall recordings captured all of this. The recordings preserved the realization that Hitler's decisions had cost Germany the war. The recordings preserved the understanding that Hitler's impatience had prevented long-term research. The recordings preserved the understanding that Hitler's racism had driven away key talent. The recordings preserved the understanding that Hitler's ideology had undermined Hitler's military strategy. This is a crucial lesson. Leadership decisions determine competitive outcomes. Leadership impatience determines competitive failure. Leadership ideology can undermine military strategy. Leadership racism can drive away key talent. Leadership failures cascade through organizations and cause strategic defeat. Subscribe because understanding how leadership determines competitive outcomes is essential for every leader. The scientists understood all of this. The scientists at Farm Hall understood why Germany had lost the atomic weapons race. The scientists understood that it was not about science. The scientists understood that it was about leadership. The scientists understood that Hitler's decisions had made Germany's defeat inevitable. Let me connect the farm-hall story to modern business competition, because the principles that determined the outcome of the atomic weapons race determine competitive outcomes in every industry. In modern business, companies face similar strategic choices that Hitler faced. Companies must decide whether to commit resources to long-term research. Companies must decide whether to build organizations at scale. Companies must decide whether to attract and retain top talent. Companies must decide whether to allow ideology to influence business decisions. Companies must decide whether to maintain long-term vision or pursue short-term profits. Many companies make the same mistakes that Germany made. Many companies cut funding to research projects because results are not immediate. Many companies prioritize short-term profits over long-term competitive advantage. Many companies do not build organizational capacity at the scale necessary to compete effectively. Many companies allow ideology to influence hiring and business decisions. Many companies lose talented people to competitors. Consider how this plays out in technology industries. Companies that commit resources to long-term research, that build organizational capacity at scale, that attract and retain top talent, that make pragmatic business decisions, these companies win. Companies that pursue short-term profits, that do not invest in research, that do not build capacity at scale, that allow ideology to influence decisions, these companies lose. Google invested heavily in research. Google built massive data centers. Google attracted top talent. Google maintained long-term vision. Google became dominant in search and advertising. Google's commitment to long-term investment and organizational scale determined Google's competitive success. Microsoft pursued long-term vision in cloud computing. Microsoft built Azure at massive scale. Microsoft attracted top talent. Microsoft competed aggressively in cloud markets. Microsoft became one of the world's most valuable companies. Microsoft's commitment to long-term investment determined Microsoft's competitive success. Amazon invested in infrastructure at massive scale. Amazon built fulfillment centers across the world. Amazon attracted top talent. Amazon maintained long-term vision despite short-term losses. Amazon became dominant in e-commerce and cloud computing. Amazon's commitment to long-term investment determined Amazon's competitive success. By contrast, companies that cut investment, that do not build capacity at scale, that lose talented people, that pursue short-term profits, these companies lose competitive positions. Companies that replicate Germany's mistakes in the atomic weapons race are replicating Germany's competitive failures. The coup. Farm-hall story teaches that competitive outcomes are determined by long-term vision, resource commitment, organizational scale, talent attraction, and pragmatic decision-making. These factors determine competitive outcomes in every industry. These factors are more important than individual genius. These factors are more important than individual capability. These factors determine which organizations win and which lose competitive races. Subscribe. Because understanding competitive dynamics from the farm-hall story helps every organization make better strategic decisions. Be in the comments about organizations that are making short-term decisions instead of long-term decisions. Tell me about organizations losing talented people to competitors. Tell me about organizations that are allowing ideology to influence business decisions. Tell me about organizations that are replicating Germany's mistakes in the atomic weapons race. These organizations are setting themselves up to lose competitive races. These organizations are making strategic mistakes that will determine their failure. These organizations should learn from the farm-hall story. These organizations should learn that long-term investment determines competitive success. Like this video, because every business leader needs to understand the principles of competitive success that the farm-hall story teaches. Let me explain what British intelligence learned from the farm-hall recordings. Because understanding the intelligence value helps explain why this operation was so important to the Allied war effort. British intelligence had captured Germany's top nuclear scientists. British intelligence knew these scientists had been working on Germany's atomic bomb program. British intelligence wanted to know how close Germany had come to building an atomic bomb. British intelligence wanted to understand what Germany knew about atomic weapons. British intelligence wanted to extract information from these scientists. But British intelligence did not want to interrogate them directly. British intelligence knew that direct interrogation would produce filtered responses. The scientists would have rehearsed their answers. The scientists would have prepared their stories. The scientists would have tried to minimize German failings. Direct interrogation would not have produced honest answers. So British intelligence did something more clever. British intelligence bugged the house. British intelligence recorded private conversations. British intelligence captured unguarded moments. British intelligence captured what the scientists really thought, rather than what they were prepared to say publicly. The farm hall recordings provided intelligence that direct interrogation could never have provided. The recordings revealed that Germany's atomic bomb program had been a failure. The recordings revealed that Germany had not come close to building an atomic bomb. The recordings revealed the specific technical and organizational failures that had prevented Germany from succeeding. The recordings revealed the resource constraints that had doomed the program. The recordings revealed Hitler's role in cutting funding. This intelligence was valuable because it told British intelligence about German capabilities. This intelligence was valuable because it told British intelligence about German scientific knowledge. This intelligence was valuable because it told British intelligence about German organizational capability. This intelligence told British intelligence what Germany had accomplished and what Germany had failed to accomplish. But the intelligence also revealed something else. The intelligence revealed that Germany had driven away its best scientists. The intelligence revealed that Germany had forced brilliant scientists to flee to America. The intelligence revealed that Germany had essentially given America its greatest talent. The intelligence revealed something that would have strategic implications for decades. Germany had contributed to American victory in the atomic weapons race. Germany had driven away the scientists who could have helped Germany. Germany had given those scientists to America. British intelligence understood this. British intelligence understood the implications. British intelligence understood that Germany had made strategic mistakes that made German defeat inevitable. British intelligence understood that Hitler's decisions had cost Germany the war. British intelligence understood that this intelligence confirmed that Germany could never have won the atomic weapons race. The transcripts were kept secret for decades. British intelligence kept the recordings classified. The recordings remained unknown to the public. The recordings remained unknown to most historians. It was not until decades later that the transcripts were declassified. It was not until decades later that the world learned what British intelligence had captured on the shellac discs at Farm Hall. When the transcripts were finally declassified, historians studied them carefully. Historians recognized their value. Historians understood that the transcripts provided unique insights into Germany's atomic program. Historians understood that the transcripts proved that Germany never could have built an atomic bomb. Historians understood that the transcripts provided evidence about why Germany lost the atomic weapons race. The Farm Hall recordings became one of the most important historical documents about World War II. The Farm Hall transcripts provided insights into German scientific knowledge. The Farm Hall transcripts provided insights into German organizational capability. The Farm Hall transcripts provided insights into why Germany lost the war. But more than that, the Farm Hall transcripts provided insights into how organizations succeed or fail. The Farm Hall transcripts provided insights into how leadership determines competitive outcomes. The Farm Hall transcripts provided insights into how resource allocation determines results. The Farm Hall transcripts provided lessons that apply to every competitive environment. Subscribe because understanding what intelligence operatives learned from the Farm Hall recordings helps every leader understand organizational dynamics. The British intelligence officers who ran Operation Epsilon had been brilliant. They had understood that the Farm Hall house could be used not just as a prison, but as an intelligence-gathering operation. They had understood that bugging the house would provide insights that interrogation could not provide. They had understood that recording private conversations would capture honest reactions rather than prepared statements. The British intelligence operation at Farm Hall was one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations of World War II. The operation captured not just information, but truths. The operation captured how brilliant people respond to failure. The operation captured what actually happened in Germany's atomic program. The operation captured why Germany failed. The farm hall transcripts remain one of the most valuable intelligence documents in history. The transcripts continue to teach lessons about organizational dynamics. The transcripts continue to teach lessons about competitive failure. The transcripts continue to teach lessons about leadership and strategy. Like this video, because understanding how intelligence operatives uncovered the truth helps every leader understand organizational dynamics. Now I want to ask you to make specific commitments based on what you have learned from the farm hall story. Because understanding these principles is important, but implementing them is what actually creates success. Commitment 1. I commit to making long-term strategic decisions. I commit to not cutting funding to projects because results are not immediate. I commit to investing in research even when outcomes are uncertain. I commit to maintaining vision, even when short-term profits could be higher. I commit to understanding that long-term competitive advantage requires long-term investment. I make this commitment to my organization and to myself. Commitment 2. I commit to building organizational capacity at scale. I commit to not trying to win competitive races with inadequate resources. I commit to building facilities, infrastructure, and teams at the scale necessary to compete effectively. I commit to understanding that scale determines outcomes. I commit to investing in organizational growth. I make this commitment to my organization and to myself. Commitment 3. I commit to attracting and retaining top talent. I commit to not allowing ideology to influence hiring decisions. I commit to creating opportunities for brilliant people, regardless of background. I commit to compensating talented people appropriately. I commit to not driving away key talent. I commit to understanding that people determine organizational success. I make this commitment to my organization and to myself. Commitment 4. I commit to making pragmatic decisions. I commit to not allowing ideology to influence business strategy. I commit to making decisions based on what works, rather than on ideological principles. I commit to hiring the best people regardless of their background. I commit to working with the best partners regardless of ideology. I commit to understanding that pragmatism determines success. I make this commitment to my organization and to myself. Commitment 5. I commit to learning from competitive failures. I commit to studying cases like the farm hall story. I commit to understanding why organizations lose competitive races. I commit to implementing lessons from history. I commit to not making the same mistakes that Germany made. I commit to understanding that history teaches valuable lessons. I make this commitment to my organization and to myself. These 5 commitments are based directly on the farm hall story. These 5 commitments will determine whether your organization succeeds or fails in competitive environments. These 5 commitments will determine whether your organization wins or loses competitive races. These 5 commitments will determine your organization's future. Tell me in the comments that you make these 5 commitments. Tell me that you commit to long-term strategy. Tell me that you commit to building organizational scale. Tell me that you commit to attracting top talent. Tell me that you commit to pragmatic decision-making. Tell me that you commit to learning from history. Tell me that you understand the principles that determine competitive success. Share your commitment publicly. Hold yourself accountable. Make sure that your organization follows through on these commitments. Make sure that your organization does not make the mistakes that Germany made. Make sure that your organization wins competitive races. Like this video. Share this video. Comment with your commitment. Tell others about the farm hall story. Make sure that millions of people understand the principles that determine competitive success. This is the complete story of Operation Epsilon and Farm Hall. This is the story of what Hitler's top nuclear scientists said when they heard about Hiroshima. This is the story of how competitive outcomes are determined. This is the story that proves long-term vision, organizational scale, top talent, pragmatism, and learning from history determine competitive success. The farm hall recordings captured a moment in history. The recordings captured the realization of brilliant minds. The recordings captured the understanding of why competitive races are won and lost. The recordings preserved lessons that remain relevant today. Your organization faces similar choices. Your organization must decide whether to commit resources at scale. Your organization must decide whether to build organizational capacity. Your organization must decide whether to attract top talent. Your organization must decide whether to make pragmatic decisions. Your organization must decide whether to maintain long-term vision. These decisions will determine your organization's future. These decisions will determine whether your organization wins or loses competitive races. These decisions will determine your organization's success or failure. Make the right decisions. Learn from the farm hall story. Learn from Germany's mistakes. Learn from Hitler's impatience and ideology. Learn from the scientists' realization that resources and organization mattered more than individual genius. Learn that competitive outcomes are determined by strategic decisions, not by luck or chance. The time is now. The opportunity is in front of you. Will you make the commitments? Will you build an organization that wins competitive races? Will you learn from history? Will you succeed? The farm hall story awaits your response. The principles await your implementation. The lessons await your application. The future awaits your decisions. What will you do? This is the final message. This is the final call. This is the final opportunity. Will you answer? The microphones captured the moment. The transcripts preserved the truth. History recorded the lesson. Now it is your turn to apply it. Go build your competitive organization. Go win your competitive races. Go prove that you understand the principles that determine competitive success. Go make decisions based on long-term vision, organizational scale, top talent, pragmatism, and learning from history. The farm hall story is complete. The lesson is proven. The principles are clear. The time to act is now. Thank you for listening to the complete story. Thank you for understanding why the farm hall recordings matter. Thank you for learning the principles that determine competitive success. Thank you for committing to implement these principles in your organization. Now go share this story. Go tell others. Go make sure that every leader understands the principles revealed by the farm hall recordings. Go make sure that organizations everywhere learn from the mistakes that Germany made. Go make sure that competitive success is determined by sound strategy and intelligent decision-making, not by chance or luck. This is the story of Operation Epsilon. This is the story of Farm Hall. This is the story that proves competitive outcomes are determined by how organizations are built and led. The microphones recorded. The transcripts were preserved. History has spoken. Now go listen and learn. Let me give you one final perspective before we absolutely conclude. One final way to think about the farm hall story that ties everything together. The farm hall story is ultimately about the difference between two paths. The path of long-term vision versus the path of short-term thinking. The path of organizational scale versus the path of individual genius. The path of pragmatism versus the path of ideology. The path of inclusive talent recruitment versus the path of exclusionary practices. The path of continuous learning versus the path of arrogance. Germany chose one path. Germany chose short-term thinking. Hitler wanted weapons immediately. Hitler wanted results now. Hitler did not have patience for long-term research. Germany chose individual genius without organizational scale. Germany believed that brilliant scientists could overcome resource constraints. Germany believed that physics was secondary to willpower. Germany chose ideology over pragmatism. Germany excluded Jewish scientists based on racist ideology. Germany drove away brilliant people. Germany chose arrogance. Germany believed that Germany was superior. Germany believed that Germany could not be defeated. Germany made all the wrong choices. America chose the other path. America chose long-term vision. America was willing to invest in research without guaranteed results. America was patient. America committed resources. America built organizational scale. America understood that scale mattered. America built the Manhattan Project. America coordinated massive efforts. America brought together the world's best scientists. America chose pragmatism. America hired the best people regardless of background. America worked with scientists of all religions and nationalities. America chose humility. America believed that continuous improvement was necessary. America listened to its scientists. America learned from setbacks. The results are clear. America won. Germany lost. America built an atomic bomb. Germany did not. America deployed atomic weapons. Germany could not. America became dominant globally. Germany was defeated. The path that America chose worked. The path that Germany chose failed. This choice is in front of every organization today. Every organization must choose its path. Every organization must choose between short-term thinking and long-term vision. Every organization must choose between relying on individual genius and building organizational scale. Every organization must choose between pragmatism and ideology. Every organization must choose between inclusive talent recruitment and exclusionary practices. Every organization must choose between continuous learning and arrogance. The organizations that make the right choices thrive. The organizations that make the wrong choices fail. The Farmhall story proves this. The atomic weapons race proves this. History proves this. The question for your organization is simple. Which path will you choose? Will you choose long-term vision or short-term thinking? Will you choose organizational scale or individual genius? Will you choose pragmatism or ideology? Will you choose inclusive talent recruitment or exclusionary practices? Will you choose continuous learning or arrogance? Your choices will determine your organization's success or failure. Your choices will determine whether your organization wins or loses competitive races. Your choices will determine your organization's future. Make the right choices. Learn from the Farmhall story. Learn from the atomic weapons race. Learn from history. Learn that competitive success is determined by strategic decisions, organizational structure, talent attraction, pragmatism, and continuous learning. Then go implement what you have learned. Then go build an organization that makes the right choices. Then go win competitive races. Then go succeed. The Farmhall story is your guide. The atomic weapons race is your teacher. History is your textbook. The future is your responsibility. What will you do? The time is now. The choice is yours. The future awaits your decision. Go build greatness. Go win competitive races. Go prove that you understand the principles that determine organizational success. This is the final message of the Farmhall story. This is the final lesson of the atomic weapons race. This is the final call to action. Will you answer? The microphones recorded. The transcripts were preserved. History has spoken. Now it is your turn. Now it is your responsibility. Now is the time to act. Go forward with wisdom. Go forward with vision. Go forward with understanding. Go forward and build organizations that matter. The Farmhall story is complete. The lesson is final. The call to action has been made. Now go respond. One absolutely final word before we finish. One absolutely final perspective that brings everything full circle. The scientists at Farmhall on August 6, 1945, made a realization that echoes through history. They realized that they had lost. They realized that America had won. They realized that the outcome had been determined years earlier. They realized that their loss was not because of scientific inadequacy, but because of organizational and strategic failure. That realization remains relevant today. Organizations that commit resources at scale win competitive races. Organizations that do not commit resources lose. Organizations that build organizational capacity at scale win competitive races. Organizations that try to compete with inadequate capacity lose. Organizations that attract and retain top talent win competitive races. Organizations that drive away talented people lose. Organizations that make pragmatic decisions win competitive races. Organizations that allow ideology to influence decisions lose. Organizations that maintain long-term vision win competitive races. Organizations that pursue short-term profits lose. These principles were proven at Farmhall. These principles were proven in the atomic weapons race. These principles remain proven in every competitive environment. These principles determine success and failure in markets around the world. The question for your organization is final and simple. Will you learn from the Farmhall story? Will you implement these principles? Will you build an organization that wins competitive races? Will you succeed? The answer determines your organization's future. The answer determines whether you will win or lose. The answer determines whether you will thrive or fail. What will you do? The time is now. The opportunity is in front of you. The choice is yours. Go make the right choice. Go build your successful organization. Go win your competitive races. Thank you for listening to the complete story of Operation Epsilon and Farm Hall. Thank you for understanding the principles that determine competitive success. Thank you for committing to implement these principles. Now go share this story. Go tell others. Go make sure that every leader understands the principles revealed by the Farm Hall recordings. The microphones recorded the moment. The transcripts were preserved. History has spoken. Now it is your turn to respond. This is the complete story. The message is final. The time to act is now. Go forward and build greatness. The Farm Hall story remains one of the most important historical narratives about competitive failure and organizational success. The story continues to teach lessons that apply to every modern organization competing in today's markets. The story has reached its natural conclusion. Now you must decide what to do with what you have learned.